Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support. Connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate, and you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing, if you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad Network challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today. Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock.
My name is Danny.
We are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Home Dad Chat. Hope y'all had a great week. It's been an interesting week so far for me, but it's all good. It's been nice weather, so I can't complain there. Danny, man, we're gonna make it 2 weeks in a row. We got 2 weeks in a row of putting stuff out. No, I'm
starting a new trend, right?
Yeah, new trend. Well, you know, if you're like the Cincinnati Reds, you know, you're just trying to get that winning streak going. That's all
once you get the momentum, you'll be fine.
And unfortunately,
you know, we could just tell people we're actually we do every other week, but there's sometimes we just couldn't stop. You know, we do it weekly.
Yeah. Well, hey, we'll try not to hit a no and lose. So that's what the Reds pulled off last week. So we don't need that to happen. But yeah, man. I mean, like I said, it's been an interesting week. But I learned something today, and I think this falls into the background of your previous life with HVAC stuff. So I decided that today I would tear into my window AC units that go in my kids' bedrooms. And let me just say, I've neglected really doing a deep dive into that before, but today I did, and boy, were my eyes open to everything that I've been missing.
Now, is this the first time, and how long? Like, has it been like a year, 5 years, a decade? How long have they been?
So I'm going to say, I mean, I've cleaned them to a point, but to do what I did today, where I actually like tore them down,
took the case, open case and all that.
Yeah. To get in to like the wheel, to like the fan housing and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I've never done that. And I've had those units for at least 7 years.
Yeah.
Easily.
It's time for sure.
It is. Yeah. Because
how dirty was the fan?
Let's just say the one of them, I mean, it scared me at first because I didn't realize it actually had a black innard to it, but it was pretty dirty. But then the other one, when I opened it up, I thought it had a black innard in it as well, but honestly, it was just black mold everywhere inside of it. So it was like Lysol to the rescue. Just spray them down, let them sit for 5-10 minutes or whatever, and then rinse the heck out of them with a hose and watch all of this nastiness like come out of it. I'm like, I had no idea. Like, I mean, I pull the filters off and I'm shop vacuuming those off and cleaning them out and everything. But the amount of stuff that came out of those units, I'm like, no wonder my kids like still have like these allergy issues during the summer. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm putting an unhealthy freaking unit like in their room. And it got me thinking, like, how many parents, how many dads, like, they put these units in and they just don't think twice about it. Like they might clean like that filter portion that like gets all the fuzzies and stuff, like all the dust. But how many of these guys are actually going in like, and it's only like 3 or 4 screws. It's not big. It doesn't take much to like get that casing off and get in there. But it's the whole idea of like, who wants to, who has the time to do that or wants to do that or whatever. But honestly, it's important. Oh my gosh. Like I will forever be doing that every single year.
Yeah. And you don't realize how much stuff goes through that system. Like you said, I mean, it's something you put in your window, but it is literally a constant flow of something into your room. So
yeah, and it's grabbing all the pollen and everything else because it's sitting on the other side of that window, and then you get it raining, and then it gets hot, and oh my gosh, yeah, I learned a lot today, and I feel like I owe my kids an apology, honestly.
That's probably the best way, I think, for a lot of people to really understand it, like truly to realize something, is just go ahead and crack the case of whatever it is, get in there and start seeing what you've got to see. Like, even if it's your computer, if it's your car, if it's your lawnmower engine, whatever it is, once you've gotten into it and you go, oh, okay, so that's why I don't leave gas in my lawnmower over the winter, because this is like gunk now, and it doesn't get dirty necessarily, but you can tell that it's just all gummed up and you've got to clean it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I went up to David McMillan's the other day, and he was working on his tractor, and he's like, "Hey, you want to see something?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." What? He's like, "Here, this is my air filter or fuel filter." That's what it was. It was like, this is the fuel filter to the tractor, and it was just, I mean, you could have squeezed it. Like it was just nasty. I'm like, when did you? I was like, "You've had this thing for a couple of years." He's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "And I have no idea, like, what was done with it prior to that." So he's like, "I basically, ordered like a whole new kit and stuff to put." I'm like, "Man, you're basically putting new lungs on your tractor." So yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's insane. Like that, the things that you're like, oh, no biggie, like for instance, your refrigerator, how many people take the time to actually like, vacuum the under portion of the and also
brush the coils and
pull it out and vacuum off, because honestly, like, people constantly, like myself included, are like, hey, why isn't XYZ thing working on my refrigerator? 9 times out of 10, it's dust.
Yeah. Just the coils have clogged up, and
yeah.
And anything, I mean, when you talk about HVAC, it all comes down to, and the primary rule is airflow is king.
Yes.
The top most important thing on any system, for AC especially, is airflow.
Yep.
And that's why, like, a lot of people will get it. Well, my it stopped working. It's blowing air, but it's not cold air, but then it'll get cold again. And, I'll turn it off and there's now a puddle of water under the furnace. I don't know what's going on. It's like, well, okay. So your filter is a piece of wood now, because you've got so much stuff in there, and it needs to be replaced every 30 days. And it's been a month, 6 months, 8 year, whatever. But then the coil is not getting enough airflow, so it just freezes solid into a block of ice, basically. And you just turn it on and let it melt. Run the fan only, let it melt, and hopefully get that coil, that filter clean. Because if the filter doesn't get clean, then the coil starts to get stuff under it, and a coil cleaning is kind of pricey. And there's some furnaces you can't do a coil cleaning on. Yeah. And it comes down to more skill than because it's just some detergent basically, and then some usually water flow or maybe airflow. But if you don't spray it from the right direction, you're just making the problem worse, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's another thing.
Well, and you were talking about airflow.
Is king.
Yeah, airflow is king. So dryer units, for instance, a couple weeks ago, my dryer wasn't doing what it normally does. Like, I would run it through a cycle. I'm like, the clothes is still like lightly damp. Like, what is going on? And I pull the clothes out. I'm looking in there, and I'm like, this isn't making much sense. I pull out the filter thing, and it's, normal. But then I look down, and you could just see like all of this lint. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I pull out the screwdriver, pull out all the screws there, pop out the piece that holds the filter on. And I get in there and I start vacuuming that all out. And I'm like, okay, like that looks like it's pretty clean. I'm like, but something still doesn't seem right. Flip the thing around. I take the hose off of the back. I look at the hose, and the hose itself doesn't look awful. Like I cleaned it out, no big deal. But then I looked at the piece that actually attaches to where like the lint comes down into to like shoot out, and that thing is caked with like an inch of lint all the way around. And I'm like, here's my problem.
Yeah. Your arteries clogged.
Yeah, exactly. So I tore into that and cleaned that all out. And, I'm in there like, basically giving the Tin Man an enema, like going all the way in like with a towel, clean it all out and put it all back together, and haven't had a problem since. And I'm just like, man, like I've had that thing for a few years. I've never done that. I'm like, man, that's something I need to start doing on a regular basis as well. And we all do laundry all the time. And it's like,
right.
When stuff like that goes wrong, don't call a repairman. Just YouTube it, or, put it in the dad group and ask them, or, just start going to town on it. What are you doing down there, honey? Yeah, exactly. Look for a mentor. We got the mentorship program. Those guys are a wealth of knowledge. So
yeah, just ask anybody especially in the network, and just like, hey, this is going on. And you'll get 10 or 15 people that have already run through this, have done through this, done this before. And we're like, oh yeah, well, you got to blah, blah, whatever it is. So,
well, it helps. It helps. We do have lots of guys with backgrounds. Like, you've got your background in HVAC. We've got, guys who have plumbing, electrical, that kind of stuff. One of our dads who has a background in electrical now posted probably one of the most hilarious, interesting Facebook posts on the group in a while. Did you see Anthony Alvarez's post about his kid and the issue at Aldi?
Anthony, man.
Aldi? I love that dude. He's always good for a laugh.
He is definitely good for a laugh. He's a good man. He seems like a good man. I hope to meet him someday.
Oh, man.
But yeah. You want to tell the Aldi story for
Anthony? I'll definitely tell.
We're assuming that Anthony will be okay with us publicizing this to the 10, 15 people that listen to us.
Well, yeah, he'll be okay. We won't talk about, if we talk about any of the other, because there's some really good stories below it too. We won't tell their names, but I don't think Anthony will have a problem because we've mentioned him before on the show. He's never said anything other of it. So Anthony's at Aldi. He is with his daughter, and they are in line, and they've been teaching their daughter how, like, the parts of the anatomy and proper terms of the anatomy too, and that's something that's really important, is that you teach your kids proper terms of the anatomy. And unfortunately, this little young lady decided that she was going to make it darn well known that she had figured out
she understands
that she understands. Yeah, exactly. And so she basically at the top of her lungs yells, Papa, don't touch my vagina, my privates. And Anthony's like, whoa, wait a minute. like he's in line y'all. Paying.
Nothing is going on. I am not touching my kid.
Yeah, I'm sure he turned quite red in the face. He looks down at her and he's like, hey, like, me and mama, we're the ones that help you clean up, that kind of stuff. Like, so it's just, and she doubles down and says it again. And I'm like, oh, like I'm reading through this and I'm going, oh my God, at this point, like I want to just shrink into the smallest ball. Like I feel so bad for Anthony, and, he basically just yells, dude, stop yelling at or yelling that you're going to catch these hands. Like, and that I think is more of him in his head saying that, but it's like totally like, oh my gosh, like stop, stop. And so
I get it. You're absolutely right, but please stop screaming out that.
Right. But it's just so funny. You're like, this is like, totally love the fact that you understand what we're talking about. This is the most inappropriate place right now to be saying that, type of deal. But it brought on this whole slew of other members like chiming in with stories of either their kids or they themselves and the things that fall in line afterwards, which I love it. Like the first one is a meme of Samuel L. Jackson from, I think it's from like Black Mamba or something. And he's
Black
all
Snake
like,
Moon
or Black Snake. Yeah. Black Snake Moon. That's what it is. And he's all like looking like kind of like, ooh, and
that's the angry dad look.
The look of, well, this is the look of all the people in the store. Like, what did she say?
You touching that child? No, it's just,
yeah. So
if you have young kids, I think you'd get it immediately.
You got
if you're a kid, even if you're, your kids have gotten into like even the early teens, you still very well remember the times when you had to teach your child what a penis was, what to call their bottom, whatever it might be. And it's hilarious too, because the different ways that people, I always told my kids, like, once they were, washing themselves, I'm like, okay, you take a bath, make sure you wash your hair, get your butt and bits. And that was just it. Cause it didn't matter because it was boys or girls, they all have butts, they all have bits. And then they go to school and the teacher's like, oh, well, you have to call it a bottom. We can't really say that. And I'm like, butt bothers you? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm a pretty genteel family from the South. No problem saying butt.
No
but
kidding.
anyway, yeah. So, and the kids just so embarrassing. And they're just being, they're just trying to be the person that they are. That you're teaching them to be, really.
Yep, definitely. Well,
good dadding. Yeah, you are. Now you're gonna go to jail. Sorry. No.
Yeah. Well, that's so just a rabbit trail off a little bit on that. Like, so for instance, like things that people see and experience that other parents do with their kids, when they don't have the full story, can tend to cause some huge issues for that family. No, just for that family. Like there's like, for instance, there's a family here in Cincinnati right now that's catching a ton of heat because they've always, as a family, they've run the Flying Pig Marathon, and they've had their youngest at the time, I think she was 7, maybe. She ran with them.
Cool.
Nobody, exactly. There you go. Okay. So nobody thought twice about it. They thought it was great. Okay. So then this year, their youngest is 6. And it's been a few years since they've run it like this. And so this 6-year-old wanted to run it, and they ran, and people were like appalled, like that whole like cancel culture. And like, I'm just going to get mad because somebody's doing something that doesn't fit within my box kind of deal took place. And people were like accusing them of like, dragging the kid and like all this other stuff. And they had police officers around them that had like seen them not do any of this stuff. And like they videoed the whole thing too on a GoPro. But still, like, to the point where like people were calling into CPS, and CPS is pretty good about like vetting what goes on. But somebody told a convincing enough story for CPS to show up the one day at the house and start questioning everybody about what was going on. And then that case actually came back as non-valid. They said that there wasn't anything there for them to go after, but then they came back a second time with like for a whole nother reason. And so they're going through like all this stuff, and they've been on all kinds of like news shows and different things, but it's this whole idea of like they have a different parenting style than everybody else. It is not child abuse what they are doing. They're giving their kids a different experience of life that fits way outside of most people's comfort zone, but these kids are happy. Like I've witnessed these kids do things. Like I follow a couple of the older ones on Instagram and stuff, and like that's just their life. That's the way they do things. But man, they are just dealing with a bunch of heat, and it's that whole idea of it just not fitting with the box, or like for in this case, like hearing a kid say something and then like thinking that that's what's going on without getting the full picture of things.
Defects, CPS, but it was defects in Georgia Department of Family and Children Services. And defects showed up at my house. They called my wife and said, "Hey, I need you to come home right now. This is, defects. We're headed to your house, and I need you to meet me there." And my wife's an hour away at work. And I'm like, okay. They didn't call me. And so the lady showed up, and I'm like, and why did my wife have to be here? And what are you doing? But, we were you don't have to let like defects in your house. They may come back with a warrant if something's, so that, it can be easier to let them in. I would suggest letting them in, but you don't have to. You don't have to show up. You don't have to go, oh yeah, I'll come right home from work. But we did. And I was already there. But so my kindergartner, I think she was in kindergarten and he was in first. And my Lizzie, my youngest, said that she'd seen her brother's penis. Okay. And that he'd shown her his penis. And I'm like, yeah, they were taking a bath together like 6-8 months ago. I'm sure. I mean, we didn't really point it out or anything, but yeah, I'm sure she's seen, it's not that big a deal when your kids are in diapers together. They're going to see each other naked,
Right.
But the teacher lost her mind, called defects, and defects came out. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I will say it was the most humiliating and just embarrassing thing for them to the way they talked to us and the way they acted in the house. And, and just the way they treated us, like we were guilty of something, and they were going to find it. I mean, the lady comes in and she's like, well, I'm going to look in your refrigerator. And I'm like, okay. And she opens the fridge, and of course they're looking to see if we have food. And I'm like, oh, look at my kids. They're all fat. My kids are fat. You telling me we don't have food? We're not feeding our kids? You don't have to look in the fridge. Look at the kids. Come on. We don't have to do that. And then she went over and she turned the water on to make sure the water was running. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Oh my goodness.
Does my house look like, do my kids smell like they don't have water? Come on,
Wow. But
they were just, they're just checking all the boxes on a list. They're not really, it's nothing personal, and you have to look at it that way. But the thing of it is they do vet their calls and they do look at it, but they would rather err on the side of caution, which is what Marnie and I went with. Like, okay, you can check out anything you want to check out. And yeah, we'll go talk to we took them to maybe it was a child psychologist, but it was where they have a little facility there that you take your kids if anything is going on or suspected of going on,
Right.
And they basically, well, here, draw a picture of your family life, little kindergartner. Because, like the kindergartner can't talk for themselves. My kindergartner could. She's got a really great vocabulary.
Of course.
He's like, she really loves to draw. But then I just asked her what to say, what was going on. And she looked at me and told me everything. And I'm like, everything. Like, Dad's got a bad temper and I yelled at her a lot, because I don't do that, I think. But what did I do wrong? What did she tell you? And she, oh, no, it was all great. I don't see any reason why, this was just kids see, each other. It's not a big deal, But anyway, it was a big thing. And it was, for me, and I think for Marnie too, it was huge. Because it's that, well, you're a horrible human being. You're a terrible parent. And I feel that already. I don't need somebody to come on the outside and tell me that I don't think I'm doing a bad job as a parent. That's just human nature, I think. But having them there was just like rough. But I can not imagine it being basically a televised thing.
Yeah.
That you're on your social media and that people are coming to you on your Instagram, whatever, and going, hey, I heard you abused your kid by making them, I don't know, by dragging them along the ground behind you on a rope while you ran this marathon or whatever. I mean,
well, what's really interesting is
crazy
so the actual like headlines and stuff like that, like they give the horrible depiction of what's going on. But then when you read the article or you listen to them actually during an interview, like you get a completely different side of it where you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. Like, I don't like, they shouldn't have had that happen. Like he talked to Pierce Morgan, actually, like they had him on that show, and like he let Pierce let the dad talk for like 3 minutes about the situation. And in the end, Pierce was like, well, that's completely different than what I was told. Like that makes total sense. Like, like I'm completely on your guys' side for the, the way that was done and taken care of. And that's been the situation more times than not, is that even these television anchors are like, well, I heard it this way. And they were expecting to get some big burning thing. And then in the end, find out like they got duped by, people clickbait and, or, all of the different negative people online who are, just trying to stir the pot type of deal. So yeah, it's really sad. They're taking it really well. They're even being accused at one point of like, making money off of how they're doing this and stuff. But I mean, this is a family that they've hiked the entire Appalachian Trail together and wrote a book about it. The youngest, who is 6, was 2 years old at the time and did the Appalachian Trail with them. And they got CPS called on them while they were on the trail. So
come on,
that's the kind of stuff. Yeah. They've been dealing with it for a while. So it's not, I mean, they're veterans in the fashion of dealing with CPS and how it goes about. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, you hate to see it. And it all really just comes down to people like it not fitting into their mold of how parenthood should be, which in all honesty, like people just need to realize like there are so many different types of parenting, so many. And just because you were parented one way or you parent one way does not mean that somebody else parenting in a different way is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for, I would say again, I err on the side of caution. If someone thinks my kids are being abused at school or whatever, yeah, okay, let's have it checked out and made sure.
Sure.
I would want that for everybody because of how easy it is for kids that are abused or neglected to slip through.
Right.
And to never be reported. So, the school systems are erring on the side of caution. They're going to make sure everything is just want to make sure that nothing's going on. And I appreciate that. And I think we should do that to a point, but use your common sense.
Right.
Okay. Yep. So granted, your kid's standing up in the back seat of your car and doesn't have a car seat and he's 4. Yeah, that's not safe. You need to do something about that. That is a known thing that everybody would, I think, agree. No, that's not safe. We need to have, inappropriate seating and seatbelts and all that. Or your kid's not wearing a seatbelt. Again, we need to make sure we protect
just
them.
Because you did that in the 80s doesn't mean it's okay now.
That's right. It's a completely different world now.
Because I can totally say, like, I've definitely been in those situations before when I was younger.
Oh yeah. I've hit my head on a windshield a couple times. Yeah. It's just, sorry, man. It's terrible. But again, we know now that it's, especially if you look at the speeds that we drive. If you get into a bad accident, you need your kid to be belted up. If you're on the highway or if you're going over, leaving your neighborhood, you still need to be belted up. I think
definitely.
Get that. But if you're looking at a kid, I don't know. Let's say something stupid. You use sign language to talk to your kid? Because that is a big thing that we do with a lot of babies, and you should with an infant because you can get them communicating to start their communication round. Wait, you made them learn sign language? That's terrible. No, when he needs to put, if his diaper's dirty, he does the whatever I don't remember the hand signals for it, but he does that. And he tells me that's the discomfort that he's feeling. So he's learned to communicate in that way. And then you go off the chain and go, well, you're demanding that your child learns another language before they're even a year old. We're going to calm down. Baby's not hurt, but it's not you protecting the child anymore. Is what it is. You're trying to be a virtue signaling, where you're going, well, I would never take my child on, if I said that, I would never take my child on a marathon. Yeah, you would look at me. Yeah, Danny, you're a fat guy. You don't run marathons. I get it. But for me to say, I would never do that because it's abusive. No, it's not.
No.
I mean,
and kids and people, kids are resilient. I mean, there were some people who were like, like they don't know what how that's going to tax the body of that child. And like, that was like the conversation. Like there was one marathon runner that was saying like, they don't know how that tax, like this family, it's not their first marathon. Like they get it. And not to mention this 6-year-old, after he run his marathon, he was up jumping on a trampoline. And I know marathon runners that are like laying on the couch going, I'm going to die. Like,
I'm never going to get off this floor.
I need 2 days to recuperate. And he's all like jumping on the trampoline going, where's my popsicles?
Nice.
So it's crazy. And it does come down to just, one parenting style versus another. Oh, and totally clickbait. Yeah.
Reading one little blurb and just foaming at the mouth because how dare you? People, they write those headlines to make you get upset because you don't get any positive. I mean, you don't get any money from a positive response in social media.
Right. Exactly.
You make money off the anger and off the hate and off the, I dislike this. And, all of that vitriol that comes from, the snapshots that we get of somebody else's life.
Yep. Well, so to swing back into some funny stories from where we were talking about, these are great, man. I mean, there are some good ones. So we're not going to name anybody's name in these. I'm just going to read through some of these stories. So one says, my mom once took me to a church function. I told the priest she had a drinking problem. Then I told the kindergarten teacher my dad was a bank robber. They're truly just kind of boring suburban parents.
Yep.
My favorite one is this one. We were on vacation when I was about 6 or so. My parents wouldn't get me the fancy pancakes at IHOP. So I wrote, please help me. I've been kidnapped by the people by these people. Call the police on the back of a kid's meal or a kid's menu. Not effective.
Oh my God.
And even after my dad, like he wrote this for like showed his parents, said not effective. And even after my dad explained to the deputy that showed up that I wasn't being kidnapped, I still didn't get my fancy pancakes. to which one of the people responded, yeah, you probably got your ass whooped. And I'm like, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely didn't get pancakes for a while.
Yeah.
That was not the answer.
Some of the other ones.
Well, it's just things that kids yell out to. One of them is like, because when you're teaching your kids stuff, they have no filter. They don't have any reason not to say the things you said to them. You know, they don't, even if you tell them, don't say this at the store, don't tell your teacher that you have a penis. Your teacher is completely aware, you know, that your teacher doesn't need to know about that. Okay. They're fine. They understand. No need to scream it out. Right. And then the one kid that said to the cashier, if you don't clean your butt well, it'll itch, you know, and it's just like, yeah, you know, you can't argue with his logic. He's right. And it is something you taught them, but no, you don't need to tell any other adults how to clean their butt. Okay. They all have either figured it out or they're never going to figure it out, one or the other. And you just need to just keep that private, but kids don't. Well, and that's what's great about them.
And I got one that goes along with the penis type situation here in a second, because it goes along with Shannon Carpenter. So and it's actually in here, which I think is even funnier because Jeremy Haston posted it. so somebody posted, I can share in your pain. My daughter used to scream help when we got anywhere to help her out of the car. Like, seriously, kids, stop screaming help. I'm going to get you out. Someone's going to think I'm stealing you. At this point, I thought I was missing some of these. So I actually put in here, I'm just here for the entertainment, and it is not disappointing.
Yeah.
The whole thing. So here's another one. So I was at the DMV years ago with my son. He was 3. The lady next to me started talking to me. All of a sudden, she burst out laughing. My kids got their penises out and we're pulling them like rubber bands.
Yep.
So this is when Jeremy steps in and goes, well, Shannon wrote a great article about this called "My Toddler Sings the Penis Song Constantly. I Wish I Were Dead."
I were dead.
I don't know if you have not seen this or read this. I actually got to hear this in person at Dad 2 a few years ago before he published it. It is hysterical. It is all about him going to a reading time at a library and his kid basically learning that he had a penis and singing a song about it in front of everyone.
Yes. Yeah. And no problem with it all. Like, this is what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
This is, I always said I could. Yeah. You're supposed to do that at home, buddy.
Yeah. But it's a great article. I'll post a link for it because it is so worth reading. And Shannon's such a great, he's such a great writer, honestly.
Very down to earth.
It's a perfect, it's so well done. I'll read these last couple ones that these are. So there's one that says, when my now 2-year-old daughter is in her teens one day while she's taking a dump, I'm going to just walk in and sit in the floor and pull this is more of a getting back at your kids kind of thing, which I totally understand. Like, kids run into the bathroom all the time. Like, this never happened. I guarantee this dad's not going to do this, but you think about those kind of situations where you're when my kids are older, I'm going to call them up at 2 a.m. Kind of deal. Hey, I need some Jello.
Were you sleeping? Because I need some water.
Yeah, exactly. It's that whole idea, I still, to this, my favorite thing to do, honestly, anytime I can do this, you were talking about it because you do it at Home Dad Con from time to time, where you're start yelling Dad, you in there? And putting your hand up underneath the stall kind of thing. I do that with Corey because the bathroom on our main level, there's enough room for me to fit my fingers underneath there. And so I'll do that to her from time to time. She gets so mad.
But she hadn't thrown a hammer at you by yet.
Yeah, no kidding. Right. Yeah. So stuff like that. Let's see here. A month ago, we were in some place. I don't know what the name of that is. I asked my son to make a potty trip because we were about to head home. So, hey, go to the bathroom before we leave from his grandma's house because they had a 3-hour drive. He proclaims quite loudly right next to a table of 4, "My penis doesn't have any pee in it." Now, luckily that was at home, but still that grandma had to be like, "Yeah, that's you."
Yep.
That's how my mom would react.
I'm just going to tell you that Schlotzsky's Deli.
Oh, okay. That's what that's pronounced. Okay. I've heard that before. What my brain was not computing what that name was.
That's all right. You've had a long day. So,
okay. So they were in a Schlotzsky's. Okay. So they weren't even at home. They were at a Schlotzsky's.
Yeah. They were at a restaurant too.
That was a public place. Okay. That's even funnier. Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, it all comes down to this, though, the whole idea that kids say the darndest things. Yes. One of the few things we can take from Bill Cosby still. One of the few. But it's that whole idea of kids say things. And honestly, I feel like a lot of times they're just testing us to see how we're going to be. But the best part is that as they get older, we eventually, the tables turn and we get to be the ones that get to embarrass them. I have seen some amazing, embarrassing things that dads have done, including one dad I remember a couple of years ago showing up to a school in a Speedo to pick his kids up because his kid was on like the swim team.
Just, I'll be here at 4:30 to pick you up. If you're not here, I'm going to come in.
Right.
And that's enough. Wait, Dad, what are you doing? I'm just coming in to get my kid. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. It's legal wear. I'm legally allowed to wear this even in a school.
Yep. Well, and so it's kind of funny. Like, these kids do these things and they don't remember them unless we tell them later on a lot of times. But then we get, 10, 12 years to like think up all the ways that we're going to get them back for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell my kids the stories of stuff they did as children and they laugh and they have a great time. So it's a wonderful moment for them, but they never recall that they did it. Right. They only remember that I told them the story and then like, oh, I did this when I was a kid. Yeah, you did. And it was awful. Don't do that again. Don't write your name in poop, which, first letter. The first thing that my son, my 12-year-old had ever written. Like, Dad, I finally wrote my name, my letter, which, the first letter that any of them wrote was the first initial of their name. So they're just easy because it's very important for them to know their own. Yeah. Yeah. There was a big J in poop from his diaper. I'm like, oh, son, that's amazing. That is wonderful, my child. I'm so glad you learned to write today.
I would much rather have found this in marker on the wall.
Right? Yes, absolutely. But it's fantastic that you've developed your literacy skills.
Yeah, exactly. How do I not make this sound awful? Talk through my teeth the entire time.
I am trying to be positive and encouraging, but it's poop in my carpet.
Yeah. Just think when you're older and you're in a nursing home and your kid walks in and you're like, look, I wrote my name in poop, Dad. What?
I wrote my name on your wall.
We always
sorry, not sorry.
As we get older, we revert back to being children. So I guess that.
Well, I'm glad because I'm halfway there. So I'm already a child. Definitely 12. I've noticed that a lot.
Oh gosh,
definitely 12. So,
well, I definitely needed this laugh tonight. So
same, yeah.
This was good.
For Tuesday, it's been a long week,
right? No kidding,
really long week.
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, we record on Tuesday nights, and we release the Monday after, and so yeah, Tuesday, 2 days into the week, and it already feels like it's been an eternity. So yeah, that's never a good thing. So before we go, one thing I will let you know is that we have landed an amazing guest for next week. So you won't want to miss out. We have the legendary man himself, John Francis from Father's Eve. He's going to come on next week, and we're going to talk Father's Eve and all the things that are being planned and cooked up for what's going to be an awesome June 18th Father's Eve, wherever you are. And if you have never heard of Father's Eve, check it out, fatherseve.com. If you've got some dads in your neighborhood or guys that you hang out with that are dads, and you just want to get together for a night of cooking out and celebrating fatherhood, this is the event for you. It is. It's a great time. So we'll have John on to talk about more what's going on with that. But until then, we'll talk to y'all next week.
Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.